Welcome to another of our GST titled Philosophy and Logic. This material is from National Open University of Nigeria. My name is Dan Asukwo, your instructor. Are you writing any of the GSTs soon, or you want to improve your knowledge on philosophy and logic? If so, let us know on the comment section so that we can help you out. If you are a noun student or from any other universities, this will be very useful for you. Please do well to share it with others as well as on your study groups. If this is your first time of coming across our videos, why not do well to subscribe, like, comment, and share for others too to benefit. Unit 2 Fallacies, Part 2, 1.0. Introduction. As already stated, although studies units are autonomous, they are interconnected as well. This study unit is the continuation of the preceding one. But here we will particularly be discussing the fallacies involving weak induction and fallacies of presumption. 2.0. Intended learning outcomes. By the end of this unit, you will be able to evaluate fallacies of presumption and weak induction. 3.0. Main content. 3.1. Fallacies of presumption. This fallacy is committed when there is the assumption in the argument's premises of what the arguer is out to prove. We shall discuss 3 of these types of fallacies, and these includes the fallacy of complex or loaded question, fallacy of leading question and begging the question, Petitoprincipii. 3. 1.1. Fallacy of complex or loaded question. This fallacy of complex question is committed when 2 or more questions are asked together at once, and as an answer to one question allows one to draw a conclusion regarding the other question. Example of such fallacy. Have you stopped beating your wife? Here the questioner thus assumes the person addressed has a wife and beats his wife. Hence it is a complex question to answer. 3. 1.2. Fallacy of leading question. This occurs when an arguer attempts to base his claim on a prepared answer, such as a witness under cross-examination. For example, you don't know any of the accused person, do you? No, I don't. This fallacy is commonly used by lawyers and any other investigative officers to extract information from suspects and criminals. 3. 1.3. Fallacy of begging the question. Petitoprincipii. Petitoprincipii is a Latin word which means begging the principle. The fallacy of begging the question is any form of argument whose conclusion is nothing more than a restatement of one of the premises. This form of fallacy is otherwise called circular reasoning. Example. God exists because the Bible tells us so. We know that whatever the Bible tells us must be true, because it is the revealed words of God. 3.2. Fallacies of weak induction. These fallacies are committed when in an argument the premises offer some but not enough evidence for the conclusion. Some of these fallacies are discussed below. 2.1. Fallacy of appeal to authority. Argumentum ad vericuitam. This is a fallacy based on accepting uncritically the judgment of an expert merely because he is an authority without mindful of the evidence contained in the premises of the argument which ought to indicate the conclusion. For example, Reverend Father Kuka has claimed that marriage must be between a man and a woman. Therefore, gay marriage should not be legalized. 2.2. Fallacy of appeal to ignorance. Argumentum ad ignorantiam. The appeal to ignorance means that the conclusion of an argument is proven simply because nobody has proved the opposite. Here is a typical example. After centuries trying, no one has been able to prove that reincarnation occurs. So at this point, I think we can safely conclude that reincarnation does not occur. You can see that this fallacy has its own limits. That it has not been proven may be erroneous. This logic cannot hold in scientific matters mostly based on hypothesis and wait-and-see attitude. 2.3. Fallacy of false cause. There are many forms of false cause fallacy. Uduma, 2015. But the most common form is called in Latin post hoc, ergo propter hoc, which means after this, therefore because of this. Generally, a false cause fallacy occurs when the arguer illegitimately assumes a possible cause of a phenomenon to be the only cause, although reasons are lacking for excluding other possible causes. Here is an example. Since I came into office 2 years ago, the rate of violent crime has decreased significantly. So the longer prison sentences we recommended are working. Layman, 2151. There is false cause because the longer prison sentences may be a causal factor. But the simple fact that the longer sentences preceded the decrease in violent crime does not prove this. There is no doubt that other causal factors need to be considered. 3. 2.4. Slippery slope. A slippery slope argument, of course fallacious, has a unique structure as follows. There is a slope, a chain of causes. It is slippery. Therefore, if you take even one step on the slope, you will slide and fall all the way to the bottom. Since the bottom is a bad place to be, you should not take the first step. Slippery slope fallacy occurs when, in argument, it is concluded that an event should be prevented from happening due to the belief that its occurrence will bring the occurrence of certain other events we do not want or wish to have them happen. Example: if there is labor strike, schools will not run, pupils will stay at home, market will be closed, the economy will be affected. So strike should not be allowed, or labor strike should be prevented or avoided. Fadahunsi and Adegboyega, 2010-88. The major problem with arguing this way is that unwanted events may not follow from the event that the claim advocates should be prevented. 3. 2.5. Fallacy of hasty generalization. This fallacy is an argument which applies not only to the premise cases, but also to cases that are different in kind from those referred to in the premises. For example, someone who has observed the performance of most logic students at interviews, and then concludes that the understanding of logic enhances human skill at answering questions. Thus, its study must be enforced in schools. 3. 2.6. Gambler's fallacy. This fallacy is committed when one argues that given the sequential or the frequent occurrences of an event in series, the probability of the event reoccurrence will increase. For instance, Socrates played Ludo game 10 times and he lost, therefore the probability that he will lose the 11th game has decreased. You need to know that the winning or losing of the game at the 11th time should be seen on 50/50 basis. The game can end in either ways for Socrates, irrespective of the previous sequential frequent occurrences. 3. 2.7. False dilemma. In logic, the fallacy of false dilemma simply means that you use a premise that unjustifiably reduces the number of alternatives to be considered. In other words, there is a fallacy of false dilemma when the arguer assumes without justification a limited number of possible alternatives when there is more than that. Here is a typical case. I'm tired of all these young people criticizing their own country. What I say is this: Nigeria, love it or leave it. And since these people obviously do not want to leave the country, they should love it instead of criticizing it. There is a fallacy of false dilemma here because the argument presupposes that there are only two options. Either you love Nigeria uncritically, or you emigrate. However, you should know that there are other possibilities or alternatives. You should also know that an argument cannot be called false dilemma unless you are able to specify at least one alternative that has been ignored. You should also remember that it is not every false cause fallacy that involves the unwarranted assumption that if X precedes Y, then X causes Y. 4.0. Conclusion. This study unit dealt with fallacies of ambiguity and unwarranted assumptions. 5.0. Summary. To get the best of this unit, you may need to replay it again. Also drop a comment on the comment section stating the important lesson learned.